Welcome to Ask GMBN, the show where we answer your questions. It's that simple, so let's get cracking straight away. What have we got, Neil?
All right, the first one comes from Marcus Cooper, and he says, should I take off my front brake on my dirt jump bike for bar spins? If so, how do I go about doing that?
Yes, you definitely should, and it's quite simple. Take it all off.
Yeah.
Basically, you're going to save on weight, you're going to be able to spin those bars, and on a dirt jump bike, really you should only be using a rear brake. Not really any call for the front brake on those bikes.
That's true. Some people use them more free ride, and you can actually stick your hose through the steering tube if you do want to keep on hold your front brake. But yeah, you don't really need it for dirt jumps.
Yeah, good suggestion though is if you're going to be doing bar spins and things like that, make sure that you've got a long enough rear cable for your brake and wrap it around your stem a few times. And always remember to unwind it after you have bar spins, because you're going to rip your cable off otherwise.
I can't do a bar spin, so I don't have that problem.
Me neither. Good luck with them.
Raven Tree, next question. In what conditions do fat bikes not work? I've actually got a reply to this. Samuel Pinkerton said inactive volcanoes, which is accurate.
That is true. What do you think? You're a bit of a fat bike expert, Neil. What do you think?
They're not so good in mud is their biggest weakness, because they just float around and they don't get grip. So everything else, they work.
Okay, I've yet to have the experience of a fat bike, so
You've never lived.
I'll leave that one to Neil. Right, I've got a question for you, Neil. Is it normal for hydraulic disc brakes to rub slightly on the pads while you're not using them, i.e. when you're rolling along? And can he fix this problem?
No, yeah, you want your disc spinning freely, so your wheel spins freely. So you might need to center the caliper. The pistons could be stuck. In older brakes, they can get a little bit stuck so they don't return properly, but you should check out our video on how to stop your disc brakes from rubbing.
Let's take a look.
So there can be two reasons why your brakes aren't spinning freely. The first one is your disc brake is actually bent, and the second one is that your caliper isn't centered. So we need to identify which one of those the problem is that we've got. The first thing I do is check the rotor to make sure it's straight. So spin your wheel, make sure you keep your fingers away from it because they're super sharp, and look down the caliper, and you're basically looking for that disc, see if it moves side to side, and if it touches the brake pads, then you know it's time to straighten out. In this case, you can definitely see the rotor's bent.
Neil, Joseph Bell is a roadie, and he
right.
has got himself a cross-country hardtail mountain bike. He loves it, he's gone out riding, but he's discovered lots of other people with what he thinks more skills have got full sus bikes and trying harder stuff. Now, if he tries that stuff on his bike, is it going to be okay, and is it going to destroy him?
Yes, it'll be absolutely fine. No, it won't destroy him, in fact. Yeah, you can ride hardtail on anything. You might find that your rear wheel takes a little bit more, it gets battered a little bit more, and your rear tyre can puncture slightly easier, but you can do anything on a hardtail. So
yeah, go for
absolutely
it.
Fine.
Go for it. Your skills will improve.
Next question comes from Trials. If you could only have one bike for a lifetime, what would it be?
For me, it would be a Cannondale M800 Beast of the East. My favourite bike, one from my past. I love it.
Nice. Yeah, I would have, I'm not sure exactly what bike, but definitely a hardtail actually. Probably 27.5 inch wheel hardtail. Use that for anything. Dirt jumps, cross country, bit of downhill.
Good stuff. Sounds like the all-rounders are the way to go, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really does. Okay, Andre Grove asks, why are lighter downhill bikes better? Would a heavier bike carry momentum better over rough terrain? That is an interesting question.
But yeah, there is some truth in that. Yes, a heavier bike would plough on through the rough stuff a bit better. The problem is with a heavier bike is starting and stopping it is going to be slower. So that's why generally people go for as light a downhill bike as possible. But one of our friends, Chris Porter, who's an engineer.
Yeah, a bit of a genius.
Yeah, suspension genius, actually rides with a lead weight on down on the bottom of his down tube, I think, isn't it? I can't remember.
And one thing that he said is that it's adding weight does tend to improve the ride at some times, but it's critical where that weight is. So it's a lot of science that needs to go into that. Probably more science, Neil, than we've got here today.
Maybe, who knows?
Yeah, it's a good question, that.
Okay, next question comes from Janru DeWet. Can you guys make a video on how to bunny hop a cross-country bike with a fixed seat post?
We certainly can.
Definitely can. I've done one on a hardtail where the seat was quite high. Basically, you just struggle to get that pump to get the manual. You can do it, you just have to swing your hips really far back on the bike, so it is definitely possible, but yeah, just trying to address that.
Lovely. I've got one here from Bryson Metzger. Where is the rat? He's right there.
He's been missing for a couple of weeks, the rat.
Yeah.
Off on his holidays.
He drops in and out. Good old rat boy.
Right, I'm going to really ruin this name pronunciation, I'm afraid, but it's Schnuffler Oh, I'm not even going to try.
I'm going to try it.
Go on.
I'm going to try it. It's Schnaffler Unverwünscht.
I reckon that's pretty good, actually. Yeah. How important is geometry for bike performance, and how can you improve it with part changes and upgrades?
Well, it's critical, but I'm going to move this one over to Neil because I know you've got lots of ideas about this.
Well, you can do things with bar and stem, makes a big difference. And then also getting a bit deeper, you can put angled headset cups in probably. They don't fit all bikes, but they fit a lot of them. And on full suspension bikes, you can actually get offset bushings in the shock. So that will play around with your geometry. But we've got a video on head angles and bottom bracket heights, so probably check that out. The head angle is actually that angle of your head tube that affects the angle of your fork, obviously. And that will make a difference to how a bike turns and how it feels at speed. A steep head angle will feel very agile, but can become a little bit twitchy. A slacker head angle will feel much more stable at speed, but can feel a little bit lazy at low speeds. Some of the slackest downhill bikes now go down to almost 60 degrees, so that's really raked out. The lower the number, the slacker that bike is. The quickfire round. Tommy Saarinen, hello, could you do some new bloopers videos?
Yeah, we love bloopers videos.
We don't get it wrong often enough, that's the problem.
We so do, and a bloopers video is on its way just for you.
Okay, mine inventions. Does wheel size affect the difficulty of doing a wheelie?
Oh, hey, you know what? On a 29-inch wheel, if you're on slightly rough terrain, doing a wheelie is super fun and a lot easier. So it definitely helps in that sense. If you're on like kind of rough grass, something like that, somewhere where you'd be practicing wheelies, 29 it definitely helps.
I'd agree. I actually find that not wheel size, but tyre size makes a difference. I find a fat bike really hard to wheelie and also a plus bike.
Yeah, isn't that strange? Road bikes are incredibly easy to wheelie, and you think
true.
those little tyres, does that make sense?
Anyway, it's a quick fire round.
Yes.
Matthias Pipponen, have you ever ridden in snow?
I have, and I froze, and it was horrendous. I went to ride with the guys from Hope Technology up north in the UK. Couldn't move my fingers, couldn't get my shoes off. It was miserable.
I was going to say the same thing. Do it once a year, and then I think, why did I do that?
Yeah, that's true. I've got one here from Beppe Pace Massacia. On lockout forks, when you lock them out, do they lock at the current stage in the travel, or does it fully extend and then lock out?
They fully extend and then they lock out.
There you go. Right, let's throw to the shop because we've got some cool things to look at in there. Like what, Neil?
Christmas jumpers, our race jerseys, we've got t-shirts, we've got beanies.
We're getting short on the race jerseys.
Oh, that is true.
They're going fast. If you want them for Christmas, you're going to have to hurry up.
We've got some pop packs to keep your phone waterproof and dry. Loads of stuff.
It all looks great. Correct me if I'm wrong, Neil. Not me, but this dude.
I will do if you are wrong. Colger, this is. He's sent us this video of him hitting a jump. Oh, he's getting bucked a little bit,
He's getting a bit of a buck, yeah. I think some of that's got to do with it's not the greatest takeoff in the world.
That can buck you, yeah, definitely. If the takeoff, if the transition into takeoff is tight and it's short, then it will send your weight into the takeoff and potentially towards the bars.
So it is, what does he do here, Neil, to fix that problem?
Well, I would say you need to get further back on the takeoff. If you paused it there, he's really far up on the front of the bike, so pump and get further back just to drive the front wheel up, because at the moment, the front wheel isn't getting driven up, the back wheel is.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Thank you for watching Ask GMBN. Make sure you keep your questions coming. Hashtag Ask GMBN.
Yeah, or leave them in the comment section down below and send your videos to ask@gmbn.com.
If you'd like to see more GMBN videos, then you can click here to jump basically into the future and see 2017 MTB trends.
Click over here for a retro versus modern feature.
And of course, you can still act. You can give us a thumbs up like.
Click on this logo to subscribe.
Yay!